there was a recent statement by Open Robotics and a few other companies. What was the motivation about that?
Well, I think the motivation, and part of it is, I have to preface this with saying, like, we have very little control over what other people do. And so we just need to make a statement on, well, we see things happening out there that we don't really appreciate, right? Like, I don't like seeing, any kind of mobile robot with weapons attached to it. That's not something I want to support. This was an anti-weaponization letter, right? And we need to be very, very clear, because when people read these things, not everyone has great reading comprehension.
Yeah, they think it's like a ban on everything.
Well, it's either a ban on everything, or it's saying like, don't work with the military at all, which there are like people who say like, we will work with the military, but we do not want to put weapons on things. And so to be very, very specific, we were saying we do not want to work with weapon systems and robots. And I think everyone who signed that letter has the same intent. Like, we do not do we do not add weapons to robots. It's not something we're interested in doing. And that's something we don't think anyone else should do. So it's just to be, very, very clear that it's a weaponization issue, not necessarily a military issue. But the other interesting thing about the reading comprehension side of it is, and this is something I didn't really think about ahead of time, is that immediately when you say this is just something we're not going to do, it becomes a reflection of whatever's happening in the world at that time. And you're saying, like, people think that you're making a statement on any given conflict.
Yes.
When you're making a statement on all conflict.
Yeah.
And and then I think the biggest other response we got was, well, this is never going to work. And that one was the most frustrating, because it's, I know that these things have worked, but we have said, we're going to stop using landmines, that, we're going to stop using chemical weapons. It's totally something within our power to say that, like, we don't want to do that. We don't think anyone else should do that. And that people should talk to their governments and say, we don't think this is something that should be done.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to draw the line somewhere and like have a very clear line where it is, because I don't think we can afford to have a gray line that you cannot really tell where things are. And I also draw my personal line in the weaponization. Like, I don't want to work even close to anything that is weaponizing any type of robot. But at the same time, I do see a lot of benefit in helping in some other ways, perhaps not directly in the weaponization, but honestly, a standardization of either interfaces. There's a lot of different things that could be done in the industry, and that could benefit people, like ultimately help human
It's
race.
a dual-use technology. It can be used in a lot of different ways, and we're just making it better. I mean, when I started my career, I was a defense contractor, but I never built weapon systems. I actually did kind of the opposite of it. Like, I worked on systems where it's like training people, like, quite frankly, the U.S. military has a problem with the escalation of force, and how do you teach people to do escalation of force properly? And like, okay, that's something I could actually sign on to. I'm okay with that. But these things are very nuanced. You can't just say one or the other.
Yeah, no, and I think there was a lot of criticism on the statement because of that, because there's so many angles you can take on this, and I know that. But yeah, people need to be reading better, and taking things with a grain of salt is fine, but doing a blank statement and saying, yeah, this is never going to work, well, that's the reason. Like, you're not doing anything to help make that happen.
If everyone says we're not going to do this, then it doesn't happen.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I appreciate the fact that you put that together. And how did it came to be? Like, did you approach the company? Did the company, was this like a conversation over dinner sometime? At some point?
There were lots of, part of it was motivated by individual actors and people responding to, like, we don't appreciate what's going on here. But beyond that, it was sort of a series of discussions that were branching out small. It started small, and people started grouping together and putting together like a rough draft of what they wanted to achieve. Okay. And it's probably just a first step as well. Like, it's really just saying, like, this is the table stakes. These are the people who are saying we're not doing this.
And you got to start somewhere. Obviously.